so radiant, so gentle, so kind, so compassionate, and so present, first to herself and then to another. Never known a better listener. So open, so willing to be vulnerable, full of wisdom and grace, and so magnificently loving and forgiving. My beloved Ethlyne, love of my life. You knew her. You know what she was like. That's why you're here. We've come to celebrate her life. Give thanks for the profound ways in which she touched each one of us uniquely. And I can tell you, I can vouch for it, her touch was mystical and magical. She was a healer. She would correct me to say now, she is a healer. And she raised two magnificent sons as a single parent. Astonishing what she did with her life. It was a great love story. And I have come to believe that it was born of the providence of God. I was living in Michigan and about to move to Florida. I had done a very brave thing for me, and that was to sign up for one of these social websites. This is back in 2000. I wanted to meet someone who was a soulmate. I wanted a dancer, because I love to dance. And that went on for some months. Emails, every corner of the earth. I came home from visiting my sister in Milwaukee on a Sunday night, and I said, I'm shutting the thing down, I can't stand it any longer. I gotta move. So I went to my computer and I thought, well, there's one more email here. I've read them all, I'll read this one. That's how it began. The name of the website was One and Only. She had come home from the hospital that night where she was working the evening shift in the mental health section. And as she often did, she'd unwind in front of the computer. She was looking for her man. And she said to herself, I'll check it out and see what I can find. So she, out in God's good grace, managed to focus on that website. I don't know how she did that, but she was not registered on it. She found my profile. And after she read it, she told me later, she said, the first thing I said to myself was, that man is looking for me. And that tells you of her self-confidence. She knew herself well enough to know what was good for her and what was not. Long story story short, over several months we communicated by email and eventually by phone every day until we felt like we knew one another pretty doggone well. And then I got in the car to drive from Michigan to a little town called Mount Gilead, northeast of Columbus, Ohio, to meet her for the first time. And I'm driving down the highway and I get to this Myers box store and I went in to get some toothpaste or something like that. And I looked around and I said, I've never seen so many depressed people in my life in one place. I thought, what in the heck am I doing down here? And I was a psychotherapist. I'd seen enough depression without any more. I drove 12 miles from there to her little town of Mount Gilead, through cow pasture, pigsty, dilapidated farms, and I'm not sure what, and I looked around and I said to myself again, what am I doing here? She said, when you get to my house, just pull around in the back driveway. It was a beautiful house on Main Street. I got out of my car and looked, and there she was, hanging out of the second-story window. Blonde, beautiful blonde hair she had then. She looks and said, grand smile. I saw it for the first time. I knew I was in the right place. And she said, just come on in through the kitchen door and I'll greet you. I marched through the kitchen door and met her in the dining room. And I looked at her and I said, you are absolutely beautiful. And it was true from day one until the last day. Absolutely beautiful in every sense of the word. And I want to share with you the letter she wrote me to introduce herself. This was my first encounter with Ethlyne, as she registered on that website. She says, Dear Dancer, I'm a wholesome and increasingly healthy, reportedly glowing 53-year-old woman, single parent of 2 grown sons, who is now free to explore who she is as a woman. All the values and traits that you describe are part of my character and my essence. Developing presence with myself has been my focus throughout recent years of growth and healing. I now wish to share that presence with another. Spirituality is key to my work as a nurse massage therapist specializing in craniosacral therapy. Intuition plays a large part in this subtle work. Stillness. I hear clear guidance as to how I best can hold the space for the person on my table. I've never partnered with a man. I knew that I was not fully formed, and thus I could not make a lasting choice, so I waited. A stable, single-parented home remaining as stable as possible as life events would allow. I stepped out not long ago. I find myself now a work in process, but coming into my power. With a man long repressed, it's now surfacing now with a vengeance, my desire of connection with a man now long repressed, with such intensity of desire. I am sublimely gentle and nurturing. I am wildly sensual. I am joyful. I am enraged. I love to dance. And I am convinced. I was once a temple dancer ages ago. Most of all, thankfully, I am compassionate, increasingly, with myself as well as with others. And that gives me the freedom to share that I feel fragile frequently of late. My desire to be heard and held by a man is huge. My dream and desire is to be heard and held by a man with the power to handle the dancer. I'm looking for an opportunity to be female in ways I have never been before. What an adventure it would be to enter a committed relationship with the curiosity, desire, playfulness, and maturity I now feel. I have missed so much. I'm 5'8", blonde, with hazel eyes. My mother used to say I looked a lot like Grace Kelly, but you know mothers. Assuredly, I aspire to her grace and elegance. I stay barefoot in my rural Ohio home, but my closets are filled with clothes more appropriate for New York or California, places I have lived, than this town of 3,000. My home is currently for sale. Been for sale for 2 years. It didn't sell until we met. Instantly, it sold. I'm working toward the flexibility and relative freedom to explore other places, to wear those clothes, to read the many unread books lining my bookshelves. It would be lovely to hear more about you and your life. My name is Ethlyne. I could not resist that letter. She was a woman who grew to maturity through incredible adversity all her life, early on as a child. I've never admired anyone more for what she was able to transcend, persevering against all the odds. Things really got tough, especially with the cancer. She would disclose her innermost fears to me. When she was down and depressed, she'd work it through. She knew how to do that. Not ashamed to seek help. When the depression lifted, she would, in her inimitable way, come bouncing into the room, throw her arms around me, and say, "I've got my joy back." I heard that 1,000 times in 13 years. And such a joy she was. She was the joy of my life, and still is. She fought so valiantly those 10 years, and she only fired 2 doctors. One of them who could not understand anything except cookbook medicine, and the other whose bedside manner she was afraid might become infectious. But she fired them as graciously as I've ever seen anybody tell someone else goodbye. She loved her patients, loved her work. You know that. Some of you were beneficiaries. I've heard the word special, special, special from so many people. And 2 of them wrote to tell me that she literally saved their lives. Because people would open up to her, confide in her, and trusted her. She was, in the best sense of the word, a true therapist, healer. one of our last conversations. She'd been asleep for 14 hours. All of a sudden, she woke up, looked me straight in the eyes. She says, I suppose it's not going to be the same around here without me, is it? I said, no. I'll miss you terribly. But you will come visit me, won't you? Yes, she said. Watch for the butterflies. And you too will see.